Hey everybody, Jeff aka G Chris here. Welcome to another Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. Tonight I will be covering the case of Cindy James. If you are wondering what Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries is, it's basically where I go to the Unsolved Mysteries wiki, I pull up a case, and I read it out to you, and then at the end of the reading I give you my thoughts. Now, I encourage that everybody who watches this video that you watch the case first, which I'll put the link to in the description. This is basically just kind of me giving you my thoughts. I used to do, the giving my thoughts over the videos, of the cases, but YouTube and Cosgrove Viewer, they don't like that. Apparently, people giving their thoughts about cases that they love of a TV show that they adore, you can't do that. Apparently, they only want the money. They don't want the actual fans. Sad, huh? Anyway, so today I'll be covering the case of Cindy James. So let's switch over to this, and then this, and then let's put it on full screen. There we go. Okay, I just want to make sure that everything is okay. Okay, that's good. Let's actually shrink. Nope. Let's shrink the webcam just a little bit. There. And then back to here. Okay. Cindy James. Basically, before I continue on, Cindy James, she was actually she passed away. Well, I don't want to say she passed away. That makes it sound like she went in her, she had a peaceful ending to her life. No, she was murdered. And apparently, she was the victim of I think it was like over 100 attacks, if I remember correctly. But she ended up, at the time, I think the police case cost over like $1 million or something like that, if I remember correctly. But we'll find out more as as I read this case for everyone. Basically, what it was she was basically harassed to death. Which is kind of honestly, how fucked up is that? You harass somebody to the point that they end up having to have themselves checked into a psychiatric hospital, basically. That's some high level of fucked upness, if you ask me. But anyway, Cindy James. Real name is Cynthia Elizabeth Hack James. I'm not even sure that's her real name. Because who would put this here? Hold on. I'm going to pause this for a moment, and I'm going to do some quick... Actually, no, I think I'll do the research live so everybody can watch, because that does not seem right. That to me, and that seems a little bit of disrespectful if you ask me. Okay, let's see here if I can find James Unsolved Mysteries. Or is this the same? Yeah, it's the same thing. Let's go to the Unsolved Mysteries website. Let's see, it doesn't say, but to me it just does. That does not seem right. Wait, hold on. Oh, it is. I just thought it was somebody who was trolling the wiki page and put that there as as a sign of disrespect, Okay, anyway, so her nickname is Cindy. Location is Richmond, British Columbia. The date was June the 8th, 1989. Where were you on June 8th, 1989? On June 8th, 1989, the quiet city of Richmond, a suburb of Vancouver, British Columbia, was shocked when a body was found lying in the yard of an abandoned house. The victim was identified as 44-year-old nurse Cindy James. She had been drugged and strangled, and her hands and feet had been tied behind her back. Okay, so I'm gonna actually just mark this right there so I know where to continue on. Basically, when the police basically found her, they basically went with the whole idea that she did this to herself. She killed herself. End of story. And I am going to go on record right now, like I did when every time I cover this. Before I cover this as a final thought, I cover this as a as a Unsolved Mysteries commentary, which has been blocked now, so you'll never see it. Every time I cover this case, I have went out on record and said that she was not murdered, or not, it was not suicide. She was murdered. I do not believe that somebody could tie a knot, hog tie themselves, basically, if I remember correctly, and inject drugs into themselves, such an amount of drugs that it would have a lethal effect within a few minutes, and then get rid of the evidence. No, she was murdered, ladies and gentlemen. I will go to my goddamn grave constantly believing that Cindy James was murdered, and of what happened to her. Okay, she had previously been the victim of harassment and assault by an unknown assailant. Hold on. Come on. There you go. Hold on. There. Despite this, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police believed that her death was either an accident or suicide. No, it was not an accident. You don't accidentally kill someone, and it sure as hell wasn't a goddamn suicide. Cindy had graduated from nursing school in 1966. She later became an administrator for a preschool for children with misbehavioral and emotional issues. She was married but did not have any children of her own. In July of 1982, she and her husband, Roy Makepeace, separated. 4 months later, she began to receive mysterious and sometimes threatening phone calls. During the next 7 years, she reported nearly 100 incidents of harassment. 5 were violent physical attacks, while others were whispering or silent phone calls. Things got worse when she involved the police. Okay, so hold on me. Hold on me. Oh my god, I lost place. Okay, here we go. I'm just gonna mark this. I gotta get a drink of water. At night, she heard prowlers. Her porch lights were smashed and her phone lines severed. Dead cats were left in her yard. Her dog was nearly strangled to death. Okay, now regarding this, I do not recall this being mentioned in the case. Like I said, I will put the link to this case in the description for everybody to watch. According to her friend Agnes Woodcock, bizarre notes with letters cut from magazines began to appear on her doorstep. She believed that someone was trying to scare her to death. She became reluctant and frightened to give details. Over time, the police began to doubt her stories. Okay. One night in January of 1983, Agnes dropped by Cindy's house for a visit and knocked on the door. There was no answer, so she assumed she was taking a bath. As she investigated, she came across Cindy outside, crouched down with a nylon stocking tied tightly around her neck. She said that she had gone out to the garage to get a box and someone had grabbed her from behind. All she saw were the assailant's white sneakers. Due to the harassment and violence, she moved to a new house, she painted her car, and changed her last name. She also hired a private investigator named Ozzy Caban. The police continued their investigation and questioned Cindy several times. Ozzy later reported that she would not tell him the entire story. She would be evasive, withhold information, and not act as a normal victim would do so. When the police gave her a polygraph test, the examiner also claimed she was withholding information. Her mother, Tilly Hack, thinks the reason for her reluctance was that her attacker had threatened her family by naming him they could be killed, or they would be killed. Okay, 1 second. On the night of January the 30th, 1984, Ozzy heard strange sounds coming over a two-way radio he had given Cindy and went straight to her house. He went around it and found it was locked. Looking through a window, he found her lying on the floor with a paring knife through her hand. She was taken to the hospital where she later recalled being attacked and a needle going into her arm. Police never found fingerprints from a suspect, and there was no independent corroboration. Cindy saw this person, sometimes accompanied by one or two others, or sometimes she said there were or three people, but police could never find a suspect. The threatening phone calls continued, but they were too short to trace. There were never ones when the police had 24-hour surveillance on her house for days on end with up to 14 officers. But when surveillance was off her house, another incident would happen. Okay, hold on. As police became skeptical of the harassment, Cindy's parents believed her attacker was staying away to make them suspicious of her. On December 11th, 1985, she was found dazed and semi-conscious lying in a ditch 6 miles from her house. She was wearing a man's work boot and glove and suffering from hypothermia. Cuts and bruises covered her body. A black nylon stocking had been tightly around her neck. A needle mark was found on her arm. She had no memory of what happened. Agnes and her husband, Tom, stayed with Cindy to keep her company and help protect her. One night in April of 1986, they heard noises and woke to find the basement in flames and the phone dead. Tom went to alert the neighbors. He saw a man at the curb and asked him to call the fire department. Instead, he simply ran off down the street. The police suspected that Cindy had staged the incident. They found no dust or fingerprints disturbed on the outside of the windowsill. The fire was set inside the house. In order to set it, it was thought the perpetrator would have needed to climb through a specific window. It was also considered odd that Cindy still freely walked the dog during the attacks. Okay, let's see here. Cindy's doctor committed her to... Hold on. There you go. Sorry about that. Cindy's doctor committed her to a local psychiatric ward, believing she was becoming suicidal. 10 weeks later, she left the hospital. Her father, Otto Hack, said that she finally admitted to her family and friends that she knew more than she was saying. She told him that she believed she knew the identity of the perpetrator and would go after them herself. Hold on. In October 1988, Roy received a bizarre message on his answering machine. The raspy voice said, "Cindy, dead meat. Soon." On October 26th, okay, let's go back to this real quick. Cindy, dead meat soon. That was never, I don't recall that being in the video itself, so this is something new to me. On October 26th, she came home from work and was attacked in her carport. She was found unconscious in her car, nude from the waist down. A nylon stocking was tied around her neck, and her arms and legs were hogtied with a second one. Duct tape was found over her mouth in an attempt to keep her from breathing. She went into a coma but survived. In spring of 1989, she reported to her family and friends the attack seemed to be decreasing. She seemed to be feeling better for the first time in a while. On May 25th, 1989, 6 years and 7 months after the first threatening phone call, Cindy disappeared. On the same day, her car was found in a neighborhood shopping plaza parking lot. Inside were groceries and a wrapped gift. There was blood on the driver's side door, and items from her wallet were under the car. 2 weeks later, her body is found at the abandoned house, about 1 kilometer from the shopping plaza. It looked like she had been brutally murdered. Her hands and feet were bound together behind her back. A black nylon stocking was tied tightly around her neck, yet an autopsy revealed that she died from an overdose of morphine, the sedative flazepam, and other drugs. Police concluded that she had committed suicide and closed the case in July of 1989. Ozzy did not believe Cindy would have been able to stage the scene, but others believe it was possible. In Vancouver, the coroner ruled that her death was not suicide, an accident, or a murder. They determined that she died of unknown event. Otto and Tilly never doubted that she was murdered. Otto believed the police did not investigate the possibility of a homicide or of somebody murdering her, instead zeroing in on trying to prove that she committed suicide. They believed someone in Vancouver is getting away with murder. Suspects. During the investigation, Roy was a suspect along with Pat McBride, a lover of Cindy's, who was a policeman. The man seen at the curb running away during the fire, is also as a suspect. Extra notes: this case first aired on the February 13, 1991 episode. It was also profiled on A Current Affair and various other media publications. Results: Unsolved. Sadly, Otto and Tilly have since passed away. This is one of those cases that royally pissed me the fuck off. It doesn't, I'm not pissed off at Cindy or her parents or her friends. I'm pissed off at the fact that the motherfucking police think that she would have had enough time to hogtie herself, inject herself with numerous drugs, including a sedative, hogtie herself, and somehow while hogtied, make it where the drugs the needle disappeared and all the items disappeared. They make it sound like she was injected with a shit ton of other items. I highly doubt that she would have been coherent enough to manage, even if she got rid of the stuff before she hogtied herself. Okay, so let's just say this. Let's say she was off somewhere else. She injected herself. That stuff is already flowing in her body. And they said that it was one of the things was a sedative. So she had to have been able to fight this cocktail of drugs that she injected into herself. Managed to get all the way back to the abandoned house. Let's see here. Let's see here. I'm just sedative. Let's see. Okay. So she injected herself, managed to walk all the way back to the house, tie a black nylon around herself, hog-tied herself. How do you fucking figure that? I'm not a police officer, and I can tell you that this shit is not suicide. This lady was murdered. The fact that the police wanted to fucking just push off as a suicide, really, this is some of the reason that police are given a bad reputation, because I'm not saying all police, so do not say I'm anti-police. I am for police. I am for police. However, it is not out of the realm of possibility that sometimes police will label something as a suicide in order to just get that case solved and put under brushed away. You know, I think this is actually one of those types of cases. Anybody could tell that this was not a fucking suicide. If you think that this is suicide, show me how. How could it be a suicide? Because I would love to know exactly how long a person could coherently be able to, under their own power, dispose of the needle, of the drugs, manage to walk themselves all the way to walk to the house where Cindy was killed, put a black nylon stocking around her neck, and hog tie. If you could show me a person that could do all this, I'd probably go out and say, okay, you're right, she committed suicide. But to me, it seems a little bit too far-fetched that she committed suicide. I'm wondering if this could have been a group of people. For some reason, her husband did not want to be, or her ex-husband did not want to be interviewed for this video. Why? Okay, so they got divorced. They may have not been on the best terms, but somebody that he once cared about was murdered. Wouldn't he want to get, to go out on camera and say, hey, we may have not, our divorce ended up on us not being best friends, but she was still a nice person. She was somebody I once loved. She did not deserve to die like this. Why would the ex-husband decide to just not be on camera? I think he's hiding something. And I know that people are going to get pissed off at me, and I kind of smile at that. Because this isn't the first time that I would have pissed off people. I have pissed off people a lot of the time when I do these videos. But, yeah, I think the ex-husband could have been in on it. They said here that, let's see here, Roy was, I don't recall a Roy, but apparently Roy was a suspect along with Pat McBride. I'm guessing Pat McBride was the lover of Cindy. Maybe he was in on it. Maybe it was the two of them. Hell, it could have been three of them. This Roy person, a lover of hers, and her husband. Or is Roy the... Wait, was Roy the husband, ex-husband? Hold on, let me just check real quick. Let's see here. I'm just gonna try to... Oh, okay, Roy was the ex-husband, okay. Roy was the ex-husband. So it could have been Roy and Pat McBride working together to fuck with this lady. And if it was Pat McBride that was doing all this, he was a police officer. He would have, he would know when they were, maintaining surveillance on Cindy's house. Suicide, fucking stupid if you ask me. But I totally agree with Cindy's parents. Somebody in Vancouver, British Columbia got away with murder. Odds are, considering the amount of time that's passed, the killer may also be dead by this point. But, still, the fact is, somebody was murdered. Cindy James was murdered, and she deserves to have some peace. We need to find out who it was that murdered her. If the person is dead, then at least let the record show that this person murdered Cindy James, and that Cindy James was not crazy and suicidal like what the police are trying to proclaim. Okay, with that said, let's continue on. We got Cindy James at Find a Grave. March Memorial. Jeez, I can't believe, it's amazing, like, because I watched this case, and you always think that, oh, she wasn't that, I didn't think she was born. When I first covered this case, I didn't, when I saw this, I thought she was born like 50s or 60s, but then it dawned on me she graduated college or whatever in 1966, so she had to have been, born earlier than that, But still, it doesn't matter. She was killed, so. Date of birth was June the 12th, 1944, in Oliver, Okanagan, Similkameen Regional District of British Columbia, Canada. The date of death was May the 26th, 1989. Her age was 44. Location was Richmond, Garter, Vancouver Regional District, British Columbia. Her burial is at Valley View Memorial Gardens, Surrey, Greater Vancouver Regional District, British Columbia. And it's in Canada, of course. So apparently, her ex-husband Roy, possible suspect in my eyes, he passed away, but I don't give a shit about him. To me, he could have been a suspect. Okay, so let's take a look at the picture, shall we? Okay, so we have a photo that was used on Unsolved Mysteries. And then we have Cindy's final resting place. Date of birth 1944. Date of death is 1989. And then it says in loving memory, Cindy James. And then you have the other picture. This is of her graduation from college, if I remember correctly. I didn't realize that she was the eldest of 6 children. They may have mentioned it, I just don't recall it. Her father and mother passed away. Wow, look at this. If you really look, they were born roughly within 2 years of each other, and then they pass away roughly within 2 years of each other. Oh, that to me, that I don't think I've ever seen anything like that when it comes to these cases. Okay, I'm just curious. What does it say for Roy? When was this created? Okay, well, I think this was after I did my commentary, so this may have been, pretty new. Yeah. Okay, everybody, but that is it for this Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. Today I covered the case of Cindy James, a lady who was murdered. And I will say murder. I refuse to say suicide because she did not commit suicide. She was murdered. Anybody can tell that she was murdered. Except apparently for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, which, but then again, like I said, sometimes they will quickly label something that it is not in reality in order to just get the case solved and swept under the carpet. But that is it. Stay tuned for the next episode of Black Site Files from Unsolved Mysteries. I do not know what it is, but I should have the next episode either within the next couple days. Let's just say that. Yeah. So until then, my name is Jeff, aka Jeekers, wishing you all a great day and stay safe, everybody. Peace out.